Part 119. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1181. Ren Chao still said the same thing, 50 million, just half a million. You still have half a million, 1 million, which is enough for you to live well in a small town. Don't be too greedy. No matter how much Jiang Susu cried, Ren Chao left after saying this with a very firm attitude. In fact, he had no idea, but he really hated this snobbish woman. 2 days later, Jiang Susu accepted her fate. 500,000 was not bad. She could get married again. Without the money bottle, she could still get 500,000, which was good. So Ren Chao immediately transferred the 500,000 to Jiang Susu, and Fu Nanli called the leader of the adoption department and went through the adoption procedures on the spot. As a result, the custody rights of Ren Nian and Zhang Xiaoqiu were transferred to Ren Xiaoming. Got off. Jiang Susu glanced at the 2 Bentleys with hatred, muttering in her heart that the richer the people, the more stingy they are. This is absolutely true. Everyone in the Ren family is finally happy here, and Zhao Xia is true to her word and will donate blood to Wen Qiao right now. But Wen Qiao pressed him down, "You haven't recovered yet. Donate blood to me when you recover, and let me take care of you for a while." Zhao Xia was deeply moved. If it weren't for these sudden people, she might have divorced Ren Chao without any explanation. Now that the misunderstanding has been explained clearly, her son has been found, and the other son she has raised for 5 years has also stayed. This is the best ending for them. Wen Qiao took a card and gave it to Zhao Xia. "There is 1 million in it." Zhao Xia's face immediately darkened. What do you mean? It's not a lot of money, but you have 3 children now, and all the 500,000 yuan was given to Jiang Susu. You have to live, and raising children also costs money. So, go to the town and buy a store. I heard that you are good at cooking. Let's open a small restaurant. In addition, my boyfriend has arranged for Ren Chao to work as an electrician in your town. Let's live in the town from now on. The educational resources there are relatively better. Zhao Xia choked on her words. How can we receive so many benefits from you? After all, you have helped me a lot. This is what we should do. After Wen Qiao and the others had left for a long time, Zhao Xia was still very moved. She took the card and looked at it repeatedly. How did you meet such a good person? I gave you money and arranged a job for you. The electricians in the town are in the formal establishment, and they can get pensions after retirement. I heard that the salary is 4,000 to 5,000 a month. For them, that is a great blessing. What a nice guy. On the way back to Haikan, Fu Nanli tsked, Zhao Xia's body has recovered well, why not let her donate blood first? Aren't you afraid of long nights and dreams? Wen Qiao shrugged. Long nights and many dreams. No, I believe them. Fu Nanli glanced at her. His Qiao was sincere and still retained his innocent heart. It was really rare. Unlike him, who had been immersed in the intrigues in the shopping mall for a long time. Now he had complicated thoughts and only used the darkest thoughts. While trying to figure out what others are thinking. Wen Qiao seemed to be purifying his soul by his side. After arriving in Haikan, Wen Qiao returned home and went to bed. He felt that he was really exhausted after this trip. It can be regarded as seeing the dark side of human nature. Not all parents in the world are qualified parents. There was Wen Jianmin who was unqualified before, and there was Jiang Susu who was unqualified later. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1182. She was fortunate that she still had a good mother. No matter how difficult it was, her mother never thought of abandoning them. It was rare for Su Yun to feel that Wen Qiao was very docile and coquettish towards her today, which really made her heart melt. The weather was getting cold, so when Mo helped his Uncle G carry the mutton pot into the living room, walked over and rubbed Wen Qiao's head, "Sister, it's time for dinner." Wen Qiao squinted at him, "Why do you like to rub my head like Wen Qi?" Looking carefully, her little Mo is taller than before, almost like Wen Qi, at least 183. His cheeks are still a little childish, but when he is not wearing school uniform, he is really an adult. When Mo just felt that he had grown up and could pamper his sister, and now that his sister was being pampered by many people, she had a bit of a childish temper, so he had to protect her even more. Speaking of Wen Qila, they are going to compete next week. I went to see him yesterday. He was training very hard. He had to practice for 16 hours a day. I was really worried. Wen Qiao, Mom, don't worry, they will definitely perform well. Suyun, can I win the championship? Wen Qiao, I can't say it to death, but I hope I can get it. Suyun looked around, where is your brother-in-law? I don't know. I just said I was going to the laboratory. I should be back soon. Outside the alley, Susie got off the bus. It was raining a little. He put on the hat of his sweater, put his hands in his trouser pockets, and walked leisurely home. I saw a girl squatting at the entrance of the alley. The girl was wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt, ripped jeans, and black and white sneakers. Most of her feet were wet. She hugged her knees, looked up at him, and was delighted. The ground jumped up, "Professor Su." Susie frowned, "Who are you? I have always admired your name. I am just an ordinary quasi-medical student." Susie's frown deepened, "So how do you know I live here?" Shenning licked her dry lips, "I was shopping in this area 2 days ago and bumped into you by chance. I'm not sure where you live, so I've been staying here to see if I can be lucky enough to bump into you." She just admired Professor Su, and she just wanted to see if she could be lucky enough to be his student. Of course, Professor Su was very handsome, and she also wanted to. Although she has no experience in love, she has done a lot of homework and data analysis, and she cannot rush it. Susie clicked his tongue, "A few days ago." "Which day was it?" Shenning tilted her head to look at him and made up a random sentence, "Just the day before yesterday, it seems to be the day before yesterday." Susie squinted at her, "Are you sure? He was in Hangzhou the day before yesterday, how could this girl see him here?" Seeing his confused look, Shenning immediately changed her words and said, "Maybe I remembered it wrong. Anyway, I have seen you around here before. Professor Su, I applied for the medical university. I admire you very much. Can I be your student?" No, Susie was very cold and refused directly. Then he walked directly into the alley without leaving any room for her. Shenning followed, a little aggrieved. "Why? I was the top scorer in science in Heiken in the college entrance examination. I am very talented in medicine. I think with my qualifications, I can be your student." She must at least find an excuse to stay with him first. If she doesn't even have a chance to contact him, how can she make Professor Su like her? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1183. But he died before he left the army. Shenning felt that this man was difficult to defeat. In the long alley, Susie stopped and looked back at her. "Don't follow me, I don't care where you heard about me, but you must have missed one thing, I don't accept students, please come back." Shenning's eyes were stubborn. "Can you tell me why?" "There is no reason. I don't need to explain anything to you. If you follow me again, I will call the police." Shenning didn't dare to follow him anymore, and shouted to the retreating figure, then I'll wait for you here. If you don't agree, I won't go home. Susie ignored it at all. He returned home and had dinner with his family. It was still raining outside, but not heavily. Wen Qiao was sitting on the sofa in the living room and received a text message from Zhao Xia, saying that she was recovering well and that she would come to Haikan in 2 days to donate blood to her. It seemed that they were in a hurry, probably because they were kind to me and I didn't want to delay the entire day. Wen Qiao sighed. This time it was actually quite smooth, much smoother than the Shen family, and the people there are more upright than Shen Kuozhong. Even Zhang Susu, at least she played greed clearly. Susie nodded. Well, it went very well. The Shen family is indeed not very kind and I don't like that kind of family. Wen Qiao sent a message to Shen Yan's mother Han Ying, asking her how she was doing recently and whether Shen Kuozhong had disturbed them. If so, he must tell her. See, even though she got the blood, her after-sales service is still very good. Han Ying said it was okay so far and Shen Kuozhong hadn't found them yet. Wen Qiao was relieved. The family was watching TV in the living room, and Wen Qiao video chatted with Wen Qi over there. His headphones were hung around his neck and he was training. The game was about to start. Wen Qiao told them to pay attention to the balance between work and rest. Behind the camera, she saw Gu Xiao. Gu Xiao was sitting next to Xiaobai, probably discussing some tactics with him, and the atmosphere was harmonious. After hanging up the phone, she saw her brother-in-law looking outside from time to time. What's wrong? Susie looked at the clock hanging on the wall. It was 9:30. It was as dark as splashing ink outside. It was still raining. It was already autumn. It was raining and it was even cooler. Susie's face was a little gloomy. He stood up and walked out. Wen Qiao quickly took an umbrella and followed behind. There was a long alley, dim street lights, and rain slanting down. Wen Qiao saw a girl sitting on the threshold of a neighbor's house. There was a porch blocking it. Wearing clothes, but still quite wet. Wen Qiao was a little surprised because his uncle stopped in front of the girl. What's going on? Her uncle's iron tree is about to bloom. Shen Ning raised her head and saw Susie. She immediately swept away the gloom and stood up. Then she grabbed Susie's arm. Susie brushed her hand away in disgust. Shen Ning's legs weakened and she fell to the ground. My feet are numb, she looked a little aggrieved. Wen Qiao was a bystander, watching her brother-in-law's selflessness. There were puddles on the ground. If she fell down, her pants would definitely get wet. Susie was indifferent. Why haven't you left yet? Shen Ning pursed her lip. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1184. Shen Ning immediately lowered the rod. Okay, thank you. Wen Qiao took Shen Ning back home, and Susie frowned behind him. Wen Qiao brought a set of clothes to Shen Ning and asked her in a subtle way, what's your name? Why do you know that my uncle lives here, and why do you know that he is a famous professor in the medical field? He seems to have always been very low-key. When I went to Country M before, Professor Su performed an operation on a local rich man. I was fortunate enough to be a guest at that person's home. I saw Professor Su. He came out of the operating room and I was outside. The operation was successful. I thought there was no hope, but Professor Su managed to bring him back from the dead. I was amazed at that time. It was also because of Professor Su that I wanted to study medicine. I think studying medicine is very meaningful. Which family? Lawrence family, you can ask your brother-in-law, I didn't lie. Wen Qiao asked her again, then what is your relationship with the Lawrence family? Her little daughter and I are friends. I met her at the summer camp there before. Wen Qiao smiled slightly, so what is your father's name? He must also be a wealthy businessman from Haikan. After all, he is acquainted with the wealthy families of country M. She knows all the wealthy businessmen in Hiken by name. Shen Ning lowered her eyes and said, my father is not a well-known figure, he is just an intellectual, so he knows the Lawrence family, but you definitely don't know him either. She had already changed her clothes, and Wen Qiao leaned against the wardrobe and looked her up and down. There is no doubt that the girl is beautiful and has amazing facial features, but similar to her, she is not the kind of person who likes to dress up. Human beings always have an inexplicable liking for people who are similar to themselves. Wen Qiao didn't take it seriously when a little pity suddenly appeared. He just said, it's very difficult for you to want to be my brother-in-law's student. My brother-in-law doesn't accept students. After all the calculations, she was probably the only student. How could my uncle accept this girl who didn't know where she came from? Shen Ning sat by the bed and hugged the bedpost. Can you intercede? You are his niece, right? Yes. He should be able to listen to your advice, right? I'm not a bad person. Let me show you my admission notice. I am a prospective college student at Hiken Medical University. After saying that, he took out the admission notice from the small bag on the side and took a look at it. Your name is Shen Ning. Shen Ning's face didn't change, her heart didn't beat, and she nodded, yes. Then do you have anything to do with the Shen family in Hiken, that is, Shen Kuozhong? Shen Ning still showed no emotion. Shen Kuozhong? Who is it? Wen Qiao smiled slightly, no one. Let me take a look. Well, it is indeed Hiken Medical University, majoring in cardiovascular medicine. It's pretty good. Then can you help me persuade Professor Su to accept me as a student? Wen Qiao still leaned against the wardrobe lazily. I don't understand why you have to let my brother-in-law be your teacher. Because Professor Su has superb medical skills. Wen Qiao raised his eyebrows. I don't guarantee that I can convince him. Besides, why should I help you convince my uncle? Shen Ning suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Yes, it seems you don't have to help me. Wen Qiao smiled. It's getting late. You have to go home. Let's talk about anything tomorrow. I like your uncle. As soon as these words came out, Wen Qiao was confused. Girl, is this so direct? Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1185. Then you're finished, Wen Qiao said bluntly. What's wrong? Your brother-in-law, don't like women, right? Shen Ning was anxious. Wen Qiao kicked her. What nonsense are you talking about? My brother-in-law is very normal in this regard. Oh no, it's not normal. He doesn't like boys, but he doesn't like girls either. He's so old and has never been in love. It seems he never said he had feelings for anyone. Shen Ning felt a little relieved when she heard what she said. That's because he didn't touch me. Wen Qiao squinted at her. Sister, where do you get your confidence? Shen Ning spread her hands. Intuition. Wen Qiao took a deep breath. Then I wish you good luck. It's too late now. You really have to go back. Shen Ning listened to Wen Qiao's words and left. At least she had established a sense of presence in front of Professor Su. The next time they meet, they will be acquaintances. 2 days later, Wen Qi and the others held the finals at the 80,000-person stadium, and their opponent was indeed VG. That is the team that Brother Dong led before. A large number of media have already been stationed outside. This time the competition for the championship and runner-up is between domestic teams. Anyway, no matter who wins, it will be Country Z. But the fans of these two clubs didn't think so. When Wen Qiao and Fu Nanli got out of the car, they saw the fans of the two clubs fighting on their own, holding banners in their hands, and they were about to start a fight. And they either compete for their players to be the strongest, or they compete for their players to be the most handsome. Wen Qiao was a little confused. so esports players also started to compare their looks. She really doesn't understand. She went backstage with Fu Nanli. She originally thought Wenqi and the others would be very passionate, but she didn't expect that their lounge was quite quiet and everyone was very calm. Gu Xiao was also wearing the same team uniform. When Wen Qiao came in, he glanced quickly, and when he saw his brother's hand falling on Wen Qiao's waist, he withdrew his gaze. For the first time, Brother Dong came. Wen Qiao chatted with Brother Dong for a few words, and Brother Dong said that being idle was idle. In fact, he had high hopes for AF. This was his favorite group of boys since he became a coach, so he came to see the game. Fu Nanli was chatting with Gu Xiao over there. You're serving as an alternate today, right? Gu Xiao nodded obediently, yes, alternate. Are you going to regret not playing? No, even if we are alternates, if we win the championship, I will still feel proud. Fu Nanli nodded, well, you have a pretty good attitude. His grandfather's birthday will be in a few days. His grandfather's birthday is always very grand and the media will rush to report it. The Fu family doesn't want to make it a grand event, but the celebrities in Haikan come uninvited every year, so there is nothing they can do. We might as well hold a dinner party every year to get together. Fu Nanli lowered his eyes. It seemed that he couldn't tell Gu Xiao about this matter. Does Gu Xiao know? Gu Xiao knew that everyone in that big house was someone he had envied and looked up to since childhood. He naturally knew the date of his grandfather's birthday, but he also knew that he was not liked or welcomed, and he was not qualified to go to such a birthday party. Wen Qiao mobilized Wen Qi a few words before the game. When he turned around, he saw Fu Nanli and Gu Xiao chatting. These two people are really not good at chatting, and the atmosphere seems strange, as if they don't know how to end this conversation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1186. Wen Qiao quickly stepped forward and took Fu Nanli's arm. Gu Xiao is probably going to talk to Xiao Qi and the others about the competition. Only then did Fu Nanli come down. The game started soon, and Wen Qiao and the others sat in the front row, watching the grand event on the big screen. This game can be said to be extremely fierce and stalemate, and the score has always been tight. Wen Qiao stretched out his hand and pressed his temple, always staring at the big screen. Finally, in the last round, Wen Kai's long-range sniper shot eliminated the opponent's backbone captain. Without the captain, VG is like a pile of sand, it just falls apart without the wind blowing it. Wen Qiao chuckled. They had the same problem as the previous CGS. They only relied on one person and overestimated personal heroism. This will not be the case with AF. At the end of the game, AF defeated the VG team 3-2, and AF finally won their first Champions League. Wen Qiao smiled slightly and looked at her brother shining on the stage. Her Xiao Qi finally got what she wanted. He has fulfilled his dream, and he still has a broader sky. During the awards ceremony, Gu Xiao and Ding Hai also took the stage. Several teenagers held up their championship trophies on the bright stage. Countless ribbons and cheers came to them. Wen Qiao felt that it was a little unreal, so he turned his head and said to Fu Nanli, "Pinch me and see." The eldest young master did not shirk her inexplicable request. He grabbed her waist. Wen Qiao squeezed his hand, "It hurts. Don't you have low expectations?" Wen Qiao pursed her lips. It was true. Her brother really won the championship. It took 3 years and countless hard work and sweat to finally win the championship. This championship is not won easily, which makes it more meaningful. After leaving the gym, the media rushed in like a tide. AF hired several bodyguards to protect the boys, and Fu Nanli also hired some. Wen Qi and the others only accepted a brief symbolic interview, and then we got into the business car together. Wen Qiao and Fu Nanli were also in the car. Those boys screamed and screamed, giving Fu Nanli a headache. Are all teenage boys so annoying? Wen Qiao didn't feel annoyed, he just looked at them with a smile. Wen Qi, Yuzhan, Shen Tian, and Xiaobai were the main players this time, with Gu Xiao and Ding Hai as substitutes. Everyone was immersed in great joy and sang their club's war song. Only Wen Qiao noticed that Xiaobai's face turned pale and patted Wen Qi on the shoulder. Okay, stop howling. Let's see what's wrong with Xiaobai. Only then did Wen Qi notice that sweat was rolling down Xiaobai's forehead. What's wrong with you? Xiaobai covered his right wrist. It's okay. Brother Dong, who was sitting at the end, spoke up. Xiaobai is playing in a closed arena. Close it? It showed that his hand injury was serious, but Wen Qiao didn't know anything about it. What happened? Brother Dong leisurely said, he practiced too hard and injured his wrist, but he said that this should be his first and last time to participate in such a large-scale competition. Even if it is a closed game, he still has to play, so Xiaobai looked at Wen Qiao with a guilty conscience. Sister Qiao, don't blame Brother Dong. I insisted on it myself. I was too risky. I'm sorry. Xiaobai felt that Sister Qiao thought that he was irresponsible and taking risks with AF, so he felt sorry for Wen Qiao. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1187. But Wen Qiao was just worried about Xiaobai, worried that he would never be able to play again after using such radical means to fight to the death. I don't blame you. How is your hand? What did the doctor say? Brother Dong shook his head. I won't be able to play in the competition anymore. Gu Xiao will definitely have to play in next year's competition. Wen Qiao clicked his tongue. Xiaobai, is this necessary? I have repeatedly asked you to practice slowly and not to work so hard. Xiaobai was sweating from the pain, but Sister Qiao, if I didn't work so hard, I wouldn't be qualified to play. I can't tolerate myself standing on the stage of the finals at that level. I think it's good to give it a try. The final result is what I want, even if I only win once and win the championship once. I think it's enough, and I will look after Gu Xiao from now on. Wen Qi rubbed his head. Why didn't you even tell me? Xiaobai chuckled. I'm afraid you won't let me play. The atmosphere in the car was a bit solemn. Xiaobai tried to cheer up the atmosphere. Why are you all so sad? We just won the championship. Wen Qiao sighed inwardly. Then you go to treatment first and see what the doctor says later. If you can play games, play games. If you can't play games, just be an entertainment anchor. AF will always support you. Xiaobai smiled brightly. Thank you, Sister Qiao. Wen Qi sneered lightly. Why do I have such a stupid brother like you? A few people were noisy, but the excitement was restored. Fu Nanli whispered in her ear, it was his own choice. People all have to make choices. He probably thought about it for a long time and finally chose this way. At least he has blossomed. Although it was short-lived, he felt that it makes sense. You don't have to worry too much. Fu Nanli could always help her answer her questions in a few words. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he was her life mentor. After hearing his words, Wen Qiao was always relieved. Yes, it was Xiaobai's own choice, and there was no need for her to feel sorry for him. Back at the club, Xiaobai said to Gu Xiao, next year is up to you. I will probably retire soon. Gu Xiao didn't know what to say for a moment. He was not good at comforting others. Xiaobai patted him on the shoulder, be happy. When Wen Qiao left, the boys in the activity room on the second floor of the club were still going crazy. She sat in the car and smiled, and the autumn evening breeze seemed warmer. 2 days later, the old man of the Fu family will celebrate his birthday. All the prominent people in the city will attend. Reporters from the entertainment and financial media have already been waiting at the foot of the mountain. It is definitely not allowed to go up to the villa in the middle of the mountain, but if you stay at the foot of the mountain, you might still be able to catch a glimpse of this grand occasion, and you might even be able to interview some important figures. Although the dinner party hasn't started yet, the news has already started to be reported online. The head of a certain wealthy family went there with his mistress, and so brought his illegitimate child. So-and-so's ex-wife married into a new wealthy family. We were destined to meet such and such a soft-bodied pretty boy tonight. He went with the rich woman. In short, tonight is destined to be star-studded, but also destined to be full of gossip. After the competition, the members of the AF club got a long vacation. Gu Xiao stayed at his grandmother's house. The autumn sunshine shone into the room through the shade of the trees outside the window. He sat at his desk with a laptop spread out in front of him. Holding the mouse in his hand, he clicked on the front page headline. Hashtag on Mr. Fu's birthday, celebrities gathered. Hashtag Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1188. It was very lively inside, and there was even a live broadcast, which started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The host excitedly reported to the audience which wealthy family this was and which wealthy businessman it was. Because several of the media present were quite heavyweights, the wealthy gentry were still generous and even lowered the windows of the back seat to accept a few interviews. Suddenly, the number of people in the live broadcast room increased dramatically. Suddenly, the reporter became excited. That car seems to belong to Fu's girlfriend. Gu Xiao saw a champagne-colored Volvo slowly approaching not far from the camera. Compared with those tens of millions of luxury cars, this Volvo worth 300,000 yuan is not worth mentioning. In the car driven by number 3, Su Ce didn't come over because he was too lazy to come over. Wen Qiao and Lu Yuyu were sitting in the back seat. Lu Yuyu dressed up to attend, and naturally, she also dressed up her best friend. Wen Qiao was wearing a dress similar to breakfast at Tiffany's, a crimson one-shoulder fishtail skirt, her hair was tied up loosely, she was as beautiful as a mermaid in the deep sea, and the necklace around her neck was the first time Fu Nanli photographed her. Yes, the small pearl earrings make her look like a pampered wealthy lady. Lu Yuyu never looked away from her face, praising her beauty countless times along the way. Wen Qiao supported his head with one hand. Yuyu, can you stop talking? Let's take a rest. I think Fu Nanli will take me to meet a lot of people at the dinner tonight. Lu Yuyu rushed over and hugged her. Fortunately, Dong Yao joined the crew for filming, otherwise I wouldn't be able to be with you. Dong Yao. The car stopped, and her car was instantly surrounded by guns and artillery outside. Wen Qiao was a little tired. Yesterday Fu Nanli asked her to stay at the Fu family mansion, but she refused. She had no idea that there would be so many reporters coming from outside today. She had never seen such a big scene before, and she said it was just a birthday party, so there was nothing to chase and intercept. She was wrong, she had never seen the grand occasion of a truly wealthy family. Wen Qiao could only open the car window and smile at the camera. This smile almost made the cameraman carrying the camera faint. The beauty that hid her was too cramped. There were some female celebrities attending tonight's feast, but none of them were as beautiful as this one. Young Master Fu is worthy of being young Master Fu, and his girlfriends are all the most beautiful. Excuse me, isn't Mr. Fu with you? Wen Qiao smiled appropriately. He is greeting guests at home, and I will come here myself. Then what gift have you prepared for Mr. Fu? Wen Qiao smiled. This will be kept secret. The reporter also asked many questions, and Wen Qiao answered them one by one. In front of the computer screen, Gu Xiao looked at the people inside, his eyes focused and pious. Beyond the car, you could vaguely see the luxurious mansion at the end of the woods. It was the Fu family. He had been there once when he was very young, but his impression was already very vague. He only remembered that the place was magnificent and exquisite, and that there were many servants in the mansion. The man and his grandfather were very serious and cruel to him. Finally, the reporter let Wen Qiao go, and the person in the camera slowly raised the car window and left the camera range. Gu Xiao turned off the live broadcast. He left the room, thought for a moment, called a taxi, and went to the prison where Gu Yunzu was being held. Through a pane of glass, she saw Gu Yunzu, who was much older than before going to prison. Gu Xiao thought that Gu Yunzu would at least be happy to see him. He thought that she should have woken up after being in prison for so long. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1189. But what he didn't expect was that when he picked up the receiver, the first thing he heard was, "Don't you know today is Mr. Fu's birthday?" Gu Xiao frowned. "So? Does it have anything to do with you? Why didn't you go?" Gu Xiao was stunned. "How should I go? Why should I go? You are his grandson, his own grandson, why can't you go? You should go." Gu Xiao regretted why he came to visit her and why he still had expectations for her. For a person like Gu Yunzu, no matter when or where she was, she only had money in her eyes. Even in prison, he was probably still thinking about how to make a comeback. "I won't go." Gu Yunzu gritted his teeth. "Didn't you say that young Master Fu regards you as his younger brother? He regards you as his younger brother just like that? Are you still moved when others just say a few nice words? Are you stupid? Fu Nanli, for such a sinister person, haven't you noticed that this is his strategy? He just acknowledges you verbally to prevent you from fighting with him. Gu Xiao, don't be fooled by him. He really wants to admit this to you. For such an important occasion, I will definitely invite you to attend." Gu Xiao regretted it endlessly. He really shouldn't have come. Gu Yunzu said earnestly, "Gu Xiao, you have to know that in this world, I am the only one who sincerely hopes for your well-being. Don't you know that others have their own purposes? People's hearts are separated from each other." Gu Xiao said coldly, "You can go to jail with peace of mind. I make my own decisions about my own life. I don't need you to make suggestions for me anymore." Gu Yunzu could hardly sit still. "Gu Xiao, no matter what, I raised you to such a big age and the Fu family planned to put me in prison. Shouldn't you find a way to rescue me? Gu Xiao, you broke the law. I can't ignore the law. You should pay the price for your crime." Gu Yunzu started to roar. "Gu Xiao, which end are you on? You are eating everything inside and outside." Gu Xiao hung up the phone and left the visiting room without looking back. The sun was shining brightly outside. He sat on the road outside the prison for a long time. The phone in his trouser pocket vibrated. He slid it open and saw that it was Fu Nanli. "News coming. Grandpa has not accepted you yet, so there is no way for you to come to this banquet." Gu Xiao suddenly laughed. Is his brother explaining to him? He is willing to explain, which at least shows that he still values him. He walked along that road and finally reached the residential area. As dusk fell, he walked into a convenience store on the roadside and bought a can of beer. He sat by the window and looked at the sunset on the horizon, drinking and dazing. His long fingers were drawing circles on the table. Will he have the chance to enter that mansion again? There were whispers behind him. Hey, that one seems to be the illegitimate son of the Fu family. Yes, yes, hasn't it been exposed before? It seems to be true, but he doesn't look like Mr. Fu. He actually thought that she must look like his mistress's mother. Oh, You see, the Fu family didn't invite him to attend the feast today. Is he worthy? He is an illegitimate son. He made things big before, just to force the Fu family to admit him. He is really scheming. Didn't that mean he inherited his scheming mistress mother? The scoffs got louder and louder. Gu Xiao lowered his eyes, not knowing what expression to make. In fact, she often encounters situations like this in school. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1190. Thanks to his mother, everyone knew that he was an illegitimate son of the Fu family. Anyone could step on him and make some sarcastic remarks, but he would pretend not to hear. It was Gu Yunzu who did something wrong. As his son, he should bear all this. He had nothing to argue with. With the comfort of his brother, what other people think is not too important to him. At the entrance of the Fu family's mansion, a red carpet was laid out, celebrities gathered, cars and beauties dressed in fragrant hair. Fu Chuan and Fu Cheng stood at the gate to greet the guests. The eldest young master was too lazy to deal with all this. He just hurriedly said when he saw Wen Qiao on the second floor. Went downstairs. Fu Huaiyang smiled brightly when he saw his precious grandson. My Nanli is really better than his master. Now Zhonghuan is completely handed over to him. I am retired. The eldest son is really young and promising. He is the best among his peers. You are so lucky, old man, everyone complimented him. When Fu Nanli went downstairs, he walked straight past the old man and the others. The old man wanted to talk to him, but when he saw him walking in a hurry, he smiled and said, "It must be his little girlfriend here." Everyone was surprised. In the past, the old man seemed to have a lot of opinions about the girl from an ordinary background, but now he seems to have completely accepted her. This girl is really skillful. Not only did she conquer the young master, she also made her future mother-in-law dote on her, and even gained the approval of the picky old man. Impressive. Fu Nanli went out, and the thin night covered her behind. Her crimson fishtail dress seemed to be coated with a thin layer of soft light, and she walked towards him step by step, beautiful and elegant, like a medieval socialite. Fu Nanli found that no matter what time, Wen Qiao dressed up could make him feel stunning, making him linger and reluctant to leave. His big hands held her slender waist, and a low voice rang in Wen Qiao's ears, "She is also very beautiful tonight." Wen Qiao smiled, "It's still Yu Yu's masterpiece. Lu Yu has become your fashion stylist." It wasn't until Wen Qiao was by his side that Fu Nanli could take a leisurely look around, and found that his grandfather was chatting with some people of his grandfather's generation, so he took Wen Qiao there. Fu Huaiyang is now more and more satisfied with Wen Qiao, but he doesn't show it too obviously. The two stood still, and naturally there were compliments from all directions. They praised him for being born into, they praised their handsomeness. Fu Nanli was praised for being young and promising, and Wen Qiao was praised for his talent. In short, they are the best words in the world, and they both deserve such words. It's just that if some people support it, there will naturally be others who don't understand. The Fu family also has a rival in Haikan, Zhou Tingshen, the third young master of the Zhou family, the leader of the e-commerce business. Although the Zhou family, one of the four major families in Haikan, ranks fourth, young master Zhou has always been outspoken, as if this has become his personality. His elders didn't care much about him, and he was defiant and didn't take anyone seriously. If you really get angry with him, he will say why you are so petty. This kind of person with a genuine personality is annoying, but there is really nothing you can do about him. The atmosphere here was harmonious. He suddenly brought a glass of champagne over and said abruptly, "Mr. Fu, do you have a grandson who won't be attending today?" Fu Huaiyang's face turned cold immediately. The others felt as if they were facing a formidable enemy, but they were extremely excited inside. How could there be any real feelings between wealthy families? The Zhang family only watched the Li family's jokes, and the Li family watched the Zhang family's gossip.